So it seems like Jasmy is refusing to stop. What do I mean by that? Jasmy, it seems like they're still continuing, whereas one of its closest competitors, called Storj, or should I say STORJ, or Storage, or whatever people like to call it, the company behind that, called Storj Labs, recently filed for bankruptcy. Now, while that is not a good situation for Storj, when it comes to the case of Jasmy, it is, again, a competitor when it comes to Storj, and it seems like Jasmy's still kind of doing its thing, whereas some of its competitors out there seems like, things may not be too good for them in 2026. And I'll explain how this could even impact Jasmy moving forward. Even though I first want to clarify, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. It's just my mindset, perspective, and review when it comes to this. So again, it was recently reported Storj Labs, or Storage Labs, the company that was behind Storj basically, they did file for bankruptcy protection. So, yeah, I mean, they did this to restructure legacy debt while keeping the network fully operational. So, I just want to clarify, right? When it comes to Storj, the network is still doing its thing, apparently, it seems like. But what does this highlight? It highlights that 2026 has been kind of a very tough year for some of these projects out there when it comes to this space. We see, you know, news about these exchanges, closing up shop. We see this exchange, saying, oh, we're not doing so good. And then we see other projects out there closing up shop. But what is still kind of maintain its presence even in 2026? It's Jasmy. Now, it's not the only one, of course. I mean, there's a bunch of other projects out there that aren't closing up shop, basically. But Jasmy is still kind of doing its thing, it seems like. And if we take a look at this, right, because Storj Labs has filed for bankruptcy, basically, it kind of reduces Jasmy's competition to a certain extent. Not necessarily, though, but this is what some people have been arguing, so I'll kind of, entertain this idea for a little bit. Because if we take a look at it, for instance, Jasmy, it's one of the 5 very popular projects within the space that's focused on data storage. Let me give an example. The most popular is, of course, Filecoin. It's been like that for quite a while. Now, if we take a look at the others, they don't come anywhere close to Filecoin, really, but of course it does include Jasmy, Arweave, Siacoin, and of course Storj, or should I say Storage. The thing is this, if Storj for whatever reason closed up shop for real, I'm just saying in a pure hypothetical, it apparently hasn't done that because, again, they say that the network is still fully operational. But because if we take a look at, again, what's happening to Storj Labs and all this, if for whatever reason that is removed from the equation, that's going to leave Jasmy with less competitors, because at that point, Jasmy is just going to pretty much be competing against 3 other projects that are really kind of popular when it comes to the data storage space within the space. In which case, Jasmy will be competing with Filecoin, Arweave, Siacoin, Storj. It's debatable, but let's just assume that's not even in the equation. Jasmy is just going to compete with 3 others, which really isn't like too tough in my opinion, just because if Jasmy could kind of still, weather the storm, so to speak, if it could still kind of, make it through these times, and if it could make it to a point in which the market were to recover, then even at that point, it just doesn't have that much competition, which I don't think is a bad thing, because if, let's say, that attention were to come back in again when it comes to this space, Jasmy is one of the few that is going to be waiting right there when it comes to the ones that are focused on data storage. Now, here's the thing. Historically, I've been a fan when it comes to Storj, or should I say storage. Of course, seeing that happen when it comes to Storj Labs, it's very unfortunate, right? I mean, again, seeing them file for bankruptcy, basically. They said Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And now I'm taking a look at what Coin Bureau posted, by the way. But besides that point, if I take a look at that right there, of course, this kind of highlights why I never only want to hold one project. It doesn't matter what the project is, I don't want to only hold just one. The reason why is because we don't know stuff like this, right? For instance, let's say I'm a fan of Storj, which I am historically. Did I know what was going on behind the scenes? Did I know what was going on with the team and all this? Did I know what was going on when it comes to their situation financially? No, there's no way I could have known that. Like, I'm just an observer from, I guess, a distance, right? I can only take a look at their fundamentals, which I still think are pretty awesome, like in a sense where they're focused on data storage. I'm a fan of that, clearly, because I'm also a fan of Jasmy. amongst others like Filecoin and stuff. I'm still a fan, but when it comes to Storage, it's very unfortunate, but what can I do about it? I was also a fan of a project called Cadena back then, but Cadena announced that they were going to be closing up shop. So, things happen, especially during a market downturn. Not every single project out there can make it through. So when it comes to Jasmy, seeing them still survive, I guess, these market downturns, it's kind of impressive because some of these projects out there, they made it through like 2022 like a breeze. They're like, oh, that bear market, yeah, it's whatever. But 2026 is where a lot of them kind of tapped out, which is so surprising just because it kind of showcases how this time around, the market conditions seem just like more kind of tough than back in 2022. But again, even at a time like this, Jasmy is still kind of doing its thing, which is very surprising to me. And again, people like to say, well, did Storj, basically having that issue, or should I say that recent announcement happened to it, which was not so good, was that what caused Jasmy to recover around 2% in the past 24 hours? I think it could very well be the case, just because, again, Storj is so focused on data storage. Maybe a lot of people who believe in that don't really care about that anymore, and they're moving on to other projects out there that are focused on data storage. Maybe that's why Jasmy did recover a little bit. Not that it really means much anyways, just because Jasmy is still quite down, in terms of the price charts, but that could have been a hypothetical reason. Now, when it comes to Jasmy, I get it, the price charts are not looking the best, but in terms of who's still around, right? In terms of who's still there, still standing, Jasmy still seems to be standing. Some of its competitors seems like they're experiencing a little bit of issues. Case in point, take a look at Storj, what happened to it recently. And again, if I take a look at the landscape, Jasmy just doesn't have that much within its own space to compete with when it comes to data storage. So if that, again, attention were to come back in again, and let's say data storage became a massive trend, who knows, let's say during a hypothetical altcoin season, if it were to ever even happen, Jasmy, it's going to receive more of that concentrated attention just because there isn't that many projects that are that popular which are focused on data storage as of right now. So yes, when it comes to this, Jasmy is still at around a 220 million market cap. I mean, okay, it's not doing the best. It's still ranked 116th though when it comes to market cap within this space. So it's still kind of impressive. And okay, sure, it's down, or should I say it's around, what is this, 10 times away from its peak in December 2024. I'm totally aware of that in terms of market cap. However, at the same time, it's still making it through that. And if Jasmy could ever return back to that, wow. I'm going to a restaurant. In the case of Sizzler, my favorite restaurant of all time. That's the thing. Just because it's down so much to the point that if it just even recovers back to December 2024, it's already kind of impressive, actually. Like, very impressive, I think, if it could even do that. And December 2024, I mean, okay, it was considered like a very good time when it comes to altcoins, but no one really thought it was like a full-on altcoin season, and yet Jasmy still did that. Okay, let's say we don't take a look back in December 2024. Let's just say it goes back to August of 2025. The market cap as of right now, the journey back to there is around 5 times. Back then, Storj was still doing its thing. If let's say the market conditions went back to that point, let's say if Storj isn't in the equation anymore, Jasmy's just going to have less to compete with. And again, back then when it was more competitive, it was still even able to reach around $1 billion in terms of market cap back in August of 2025 with competition that is more fierce than right now. So if the market conditions were to go back there, and let's say the competitors were not as extensive as right now, or not as many, I should say, I don't see why Jasmy couldn't hypothetically surpass that. Who knows, right? Hypothetically, I don't know. But I'm just saying, if it did, it wouldn't surprise me, just because if the market sentiment were to go back there, Jasmy just has less to compete with this time around. And again, yet still, we're around 5 times lower than August of 2025. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's just what I noticed. So as of right now, yeah, I'm still waiting. I'm still holding. Of course, it's not good seeing, some projects out there basically have issues. But at the same time, it seems like Jasmy's still around. So sometimes being able to make it through, sometimes that's kind of, what really matters at the end of the day, right? Being able to make it through market downturns. So when I see Jasmy still doing its thing, especially in 2026, it's kind of impressive. But yeah, I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very spectacular, wonderful, amazing, and wonderful day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.